Well, thank you very much for that, Matt. And great to see how Speedy are collaborating with customers. It really does seem like the journey to net zero is a team effort. Okay, well, we're now going to move on to the final part of the day, and this is our SWOT panel session. So basically, we have two new guests for you, but I'm going to introduce our first panellist who's joining us virtually. That is Matt Sexton from Futerra. Matt was Sustainability Director at B&Q, where he ran their One Planet Home Plan. That led to market on sourcing standards and developing products that created more affordable, sustainable homes. At Futerra, his role is to develop sustainability strategy frameworks and action plans that deliver measurable impact for clients. Also joining us here in this beautiful studio in Leeds is Dr. James Cadman from Action Sustainability and the Supply Chain Sustainability School. James heads up Action Sustainability Consultancy Team, where he has worked in product sustainability and sustainable procurement for more than 20 years. James's work is focused on understanding the sustainability impacts that products have and applying that to supply chain sustainability initiatives. James has led many projects on developing sustainable procurement policies, devising product standards and guidance, as well as undertaking carbon footprint printing in order to improve product and market sustainability performance. And of course, let's welcome back to two people we've already met today, ESG Director Amelia Woodley and Supply Chain and Innovation Director Andy Connor. Welcome everyone.
Thank you, Sam.
Full house now, isn't it?
Thank you.
It's all busy, and of course, good you can hear us. That's what is important, Matt.
Yeah, the technology works.
Yes. Okay, well, in today's session, we're going to take a whistle-stop tour, I got there in the end, of our panellists' views on the current state of play of the industry's journey to net zero in the form of a SWOT analysis, looking at the current strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. So let's get started, Amelia. We're gonna come to you. So let's look at where the industry is doing well. What are the current strengths in the industry?
Well, I think that we're at a place now in the industry where we all know that we need to get to net zero. So we are on that common goal. If we think back at least 5 years ago, there wasn't very many people that were actively talking about net zero, and the fact that we're in this studio today reflects the advancement that we've made. So we know we need to get to net zero, and we know we've got the innovation to get us there through what we presented today. Andy coming on and showing us all the innovation in technology. So I think that's a real strength and win for the sector.
And Matt, we'll come to you. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, is it echoes outside of the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a sort of big accelerative curve at the moment. We've gone through this sort of like when I first got in this 20 years ago, it was why would we do this? Then it was what do we do? And I think we're in the how phase now, and I think it's really coming center stage. And I think a lot of the stuff we've spoken about, sustainable business models, leadership on sustainability, is something which is now mainstreaming. And as I'm sure we'll discuss later, I think hire has a massive part to play in this.
Yeah, absolutely. And lots of those strengths have been mentioned throughout the day today. But for now, we're going to move into where the industry is lacking. So, James, working with Supply Chain Sustainability School, I'm sure you probably see lots of success as well as seeing where the business is struggling. So what would you say the current barriers are to reaching net zero, and what are the biggest weaknesses as well?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. There's a lot going on. As Amelia says, there's a lot of knowledge and awareness now around net zero. That's great. We've moved away from a situation of people saying, well, what is this? Why do we need to do it? Like Matt just indicated there, to a stage of, well, yeah, we need to do something. But what's still lacking in many pockets across our sector, but other sectors as well, this is a global thing, is that lack of true understanding and knowledge of how to deal with it, what to do about it. And that's coming, that will come over time, but that's about changing people's understanding, getting them to see the reasons and the benefits of doing this kind of thing. And that comes through learning and change behavioural stuff. So we're on the right track, we just need to keep moving along that road.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose weaknesses aren't a negative thing because we learn from the things that we need to improve. So if there are people out there or any organisations or companies that do need help, is there anywhere that anyone can go for support or to educate themselves or even their workforce?
Yeah, definitely. We've already mentioned the Supply Chain Sustainability School. It's a free resource out there. Speedy are one of the key partners to the Supply Chain School. You can go and learn about all kinds of things on sustainability. It's not just climate and net zero, social value, modern slavery, you name it. Free resource, all online, some of it face-to-face as well. So you can really bring up your knowledge and competence for yourself, your business and your supply chain.
Awesome. And of course events like today and the expo as well, which is going to be next year. Can't miss that one. I'll keep plugging that one as well for you. Amelia, I mean, James has made some really good points there and we've covered a lot of it over today. Do you have anything to add when it comes to improvements?
Yeah, so I think we've spoken a lot about data today. You know, Matthew coined the phrase purpose-led data. When we think about net zero, we know where we need to get to. So whether that be a 2050 or 2040 goal, we have the technology available to us, and there's been a huge amount of advancement of that. But you can't get to that place, or you can't really fully understand that you've got there unless you've got good, robust data and insights. And as I mentioned before, you know, Sam, data is king. And I think the data piece absolutely underpins and gives you that intelligence and that insight into, is this working and am I heading in the right direction?
Yeah, and what can we change to make it go in the right direction? Yes. Okay, Andy, your turn now. With the industry, talk to us about the opportunities then. What can we look forward to?
Good question, Sam. I suppose I'm the kid in the sweet shop. I get to see all the latest technology, what's being developed by the supply chain. All the products that I've showed you on my presentation, they're all as a result of collaboration. We listen to our customers, we learn from their experiences, and we help develop the technology with our customers. With our suppliers. There's lots coming on board. I've seen technology that's what you won't see for the next 12 to 18 months, but rest assured, there's plenty of technology and the tools are going to get more clever, more digital, more data is going to come from the tool. So it's there. What we have to do, and I've made the point in my presentation, is this collaboration as an industry. So not just suppliers and hire companies and customers, competitors, we've all got to do this together because we cannot do it and the way that we're competing at the moment. We're just driving out the innovation through the right. So there is my call to arms is, please, let's get in a room and let's discuss it. But from an opportunity and innovation point of view, lots are coming on board to actually take carbon and take fossil fuels off the job site.
Brilliant. Yeah, well, there's the official call out. Get in touch, work together. Matt, I'm going to come to you in just a minute as well to discuss about the threats as someone in the trenches of transformation. But where do you see the opportunities for the industry at the moment?
I think there's a couple of big opportunities for the industry at the moment. I mean, the first thing is when you look at the scale of the industry that Speedy exists within, even if you look at the construction industry, it's top of the shop. You look at carbon emissions, you look at waste, you look at all of these things. It's a massive, massive impact. And therefore, the opportunity for the industry is similarly huge. And I think that when I look at Speedy, from my viewpoint, if I'm working on sustainability strategy, the reality is that the impact on health can be huge. You know, we can take all of the fumes out of the air and actually give people healthier environments to work in. We can save the industry money. Ultimately, I know there are bumps in the road on green technology, but believe you me, a system that is circular and running on renewable energy will be more cost effective in the long run. There is absolutely no doubt about that. So I think the scale of impact that it can have is huge. And I think Speedy have got two roles to play within this. I think, and the way that Amelia and I have discussed about before, it's about making hire greener and taking the existing industry and just making it far better for everybody involved. But I also think that, as we look around society, the idea of sort of just buying cheap stuff, using it once, chucking it away, that is going out. And I think if you can provide people with items that they can hire, which can give them a better result, then there's a huge opportunity in the retail market, because, it's like, who needs to own 13 power tools in their shed when you could just have them delivered to your door within an hour, use them and then send them back? It's a lot better for everybody. So I think the time has come. It's a great opportunity.
Sure, well, exciting times, and we're probably going to move now on to the concluding section of the SWOT analysis. And James, can you start us off and give us an insight into some of the threats in the construction industry in particular? And then Matt, I'm probably going to throw it back to you to give us some insight into what our biggest threats are on a global scale as we move to net zero. So
Cool. Thanks,
you
Sam. I'm
first.
going to be greedy. I'm going to give you 3 threats.
Do it.
If I can remember all 3. 3 is a magic number. So the first one for me is complacency. The climate challenge has been around for decades. It's nothing new. We've known about it for a long time, that there's a complacency issue, that people kind of say, oh, we've done it, we've sorted it, haven't we? The test is going to start tomorrow in Dubai in COP28. That's going to kick off. That's the global meeting of all the countries. Rishi Sunak's going to be there. King Charles is going to be there. So that's the real test at the global level. But my worry is that we get complacent about it. That it's sorted, isn't it? No, it's not. We need to keep doing that. We need to bring the innovation in.
Action, don't you?
Action and innovation. These things need to come in. The second of them is about skills. We know in our sector that there's a skills issue just generally, but that ties into the net zero piece as well. Have the people coming in, are they attracted in for the right reasons, that they've got this innovative technology that's going to really help them and help the organisations, help the client, help the country drive towards net zero. So we need to bring and link in skills and net zero to each other. And then the third one is competition. Only this morning I was reading an article on the BBC about sustainable aviation fuel flying a jet from the UK to the US.
Yesterday morning was that?
This morning.
Oh,
this morning on the train up.
No, sorry, the flight. When was the flight?
Oh, the flight was a couple of days ago.
Right, okay.
It was a recent flight, but they didn't call it this, but they used HVO in the mix, in the sustainable aviation fuel. They called it waste cooking oil, but it's basically HVO. Aviation is a big market, they've got a big pull. So that's a challenge, that's a threat to our sector as well, if we're going to use HVO and other fuels like that as a stepping stone towards some of the other lower carbon technologies. So, lots of things.
Yeah, read the small print.
Indeed.
Okay, so again, Matt, we're going to come back to you then. So what I asked you before, do you fancy talking to us a little bit about that? On a global scale?
Well, in terms of the threats to the net zero agenda on a global scale? Yeah. I think there's. I mean, by the way, I agree with all those threats. They're very, very real. I think one of the threats to our ability to mobilise on net zero at a global scale is finding the financial frameworks to make it happen. We have to have the financial vehicles to make this commercially acceptable. As I said, the long-term economics of all these initiatives and all of these technologies work out very, very well. But we do have to make it affordable for people to mobilise at scale. I think there's also a political dimension to this. I mean, I don't want to stray into contentious territory, but there is a bit of backlash out here at the moment. This is being used as a sort of wedge issue to drive people apart, and we can't let that happen. Ultimately, if we want a future of with a stable climate and no waste and toxins on our environment and clean air and everything else, we have to bring it out, and it will be economically better. But there is undoubtedly people who are trying to rock the boat and use this as a politically divisive issue. So we've got to unify and actually put forward the positive vision around this. So I think the 2 big threats I see are people struggling with the finance and also potentially this becoming a bit of a political football. I think, I look at it and go, I think all of the technological solutions are there. It's phenomenal. If you look at there's now more money going into clean energy generation than there is oil and gas. We didn't dream of that 10 years ago. So there's no good reason for it not to happen, but there will be a couple of threats to rolling it out if we're not careful.
Brilliant, thanks, Matt. And you mentioned a little bit of the political side. Amelia, I'm going to come over to you now to continue that thought as such. Do you think the government policy goes far enough to support both the construction industry and the UK businesses to hit their net zero targets?
It's a really good question. We've got to recognise that the government has done a lot. They were the first, the UK government was the first in the world to commit to net zero by 2040. And we're at a 48% reduction as a country. So they have done a lot. However, there is more to go, and there is more things that the government can do. I think businesses have moved quite significantly. A lot of them have net zero roadmaps. A lot of them aren't unwinding from those. But, if we look at technologies, I referenced earlier in the Q&A around our climate modelling. When we look at current government policy today, our climate model tells us that HVO is our solution towards net zero because we don't have the electricity grid mix that supports cordless power. So you can invest in battery technology and cordless power, but if you don't plug it into a renewable network, you're not going to get those carbon gains. And it's similar to hydrogen. Again, we've got the technology, but we need the government to invest the infrastructure. So I think we're really at that tipping point where businesses have gone, we're on the journey, but we need you to unlock the final doors so that we can all get to net zero together.
Brilliant, some really good points there. And Fantastic insights from you all, so thank you very much. It's not where it ends though, the questions, because those of you who are watching have actually sent in some brilliant questions, so thank you very much. They're coming in live now. For the four of you, feel free to jump in wherever best suits, if you have a burning desire, or you can fight over it, whatever you prefer. So we're going to start off with the first one. Is there enough supply to meet the anticipated future demands of hydrogen? So almost something that you've just kind of touched on there, Amelia, with infrastructure and obviously this view on.
I think this is an Andy one.
It's a great question. It was something I tried to allude to it in my presentation, but I'll literally run out of time. Before I just talk about hydrogen, because there is a lot of questions around hydrogen, fuel in general, you know, we talk about HVO, James mentioned it. It is a bridging fuel. It's a step towards a better fuel, a better future. There will be synthetic fuels. There will be, Virgin Atlantic flew, as you said yesterday, their first flight on a fully synthetic fuel. Synthetic fuels will be made of hydrogen and carbon that's been captured. Yep. If you put them two together, you can make petrol, diesel, aviation fluid. That's going to happen, and that's going to be available in the world within the next 2 years. The cost will be an issue, the availability, but they are building refineries to actually produce this fuel. If we do that, then these big engines on big equipment can carry on as normal, because as I say, the engine isn't the fault, it's the fuel. So that's going to happen. However, hydrogen is a great product. As you say, the byproduct is water. The emissions, exhaust emissions or tailpipe emissions is water. I think that the question is regarding the regulations around hydrogen, or is the availability? Yes, Sam, sorry.
So no, that's our next one. So ours was basically about
the availability. So if hydrogen is available, a lot of the industrial gas manufacturers provide hydrogen in two forms, well, three forms actually. You can get it in a small, what we call a genie cylinder, which is powering our Nifty Lift products, and also the hydrogen light and tower that we rehire in the fleet. And then on the bigger plants, on the big generators, you get what we call a HPAC, which is a 12 cylinders on a palletized. So that's available. If you need more hydrogen, then you have to use tube trailers. What we're trying to do is look at the movement of hydrogen. Can you produce hydrogen on the job site by different technologies, using ammonia and cracking or methanol, etc. That's going to make hydrogen more cost effective, because the problem with hydrogen is not the availability, it's the price. If we were in Europe, if we were in Germany, we'd be paying £6 a kilo. We're in the UK, we're paying anything from £20 to £25. That's the problem. It's the cost. It's not the availability.
And you mentioned just then, when you talk about regulations, what does that look like then on site? Because, is it a problem? Are regulations allowing it?
So hydrogen's being used on a job site for probably 10 years in the cylinders. It's an industrial gas. It's treated like any other industrial gas, oxyacetylene. It's 14 times lighter than air. As soon as it escapes, it's gone. You actually, the regulations are you store it with other industrial gases. You actually keep it away from LPG. LPG is a lot worse because it's heavier, and when it does leak, there is a flame. So yes, people think about hydrogen that we're creating bombs. We're not. It is a safe gas, but you have to respect it. It's an industrial gas, and regulations on site do permit, as long as like any other gas, you treat it in the same way like an industrial gas. There are regulations around that. This is exactly the same, Sam.
Fab. Okay, Matt, the next question's actually been directed specifically for you. So here we go. How is the UK construction industry performing on a global stage in terms of net zero?
Oh, that is a very good question. I'm not sure I have the answer to it. I'm looking slightly nervous now, particularly since it's directed at me. I think the first thing is to say, going back to one of Amelia's points around the grid, the UK grid is comparatively clean. We've done a pretty good job of decarbonising it. There's some way to go there. So therefore, the energy being used in the industry is going to be relatively clean. And from what I see around, generally the UK has led on early adoption of some of the new technologies that are out there. But I think if you look at construction as a whole, then you've got to look at the materials that are going into these buildings and the embodied carbon within it. So you build a huge piece of infrastructure. A huge building, there's steel, there's concrete, and that stuff can be transported a fair old distance. We're getting started on green steel. There was the announcement a couple of weeks ago from Tata, I think, around green steel plants and so forth. So that is coming. So I can't quote any specific figures. My gut instinct is the UK has generally been a sort of early adopter of low carbon technologies. As James was saying, we've seen the first sustainable aviation fuel flight take off today. I think Andy's point around synthetic fuels is well made. You know, we do a bit of work with Formula One. They're working on synthetic fuels. So gut instinct says that the UK should be able to lead in this field. And if it isn't doing so already, then that opportunity exists. So I don't have any firm figures, but I guess what I would say is there's no excuse for us not to. Like, you know, we've done a good job on decarbonising our economy and our energy system. We are a hub of green technology development and investment. So I hope that we can lead in it. But I will go away and see how we're actually doing in terms of kilograms per ton of built environment created.
Yes, please do get back to us, and yeah, hopefully we are leading the way. If not, we'll soon be. Okay, next question. Again, if anyone wants to jump in on this one, how available is hydrogen for next day delivery across the UK, and what forms would that delivery take?
Okay, so we have it available on the equipment that we provide now, Sam, the boom lift, etc. We have it available. It's in our powered access depots. It's stored in the correct environment. It's available. You know, we've already got it on site, so there's no issue around the supply. And we deliver it on our normal.
How is it delivered? Is it like cylinders?
It's small cylinders, like your your small barbecue cylinder.
Okay, yeah.
It's exactly the same size of that. It's a composite cylinder, so it's got a bit more than a normal steel cylinders because of hydrogen you don't put it in you can put it in normal steel, but it's to do with the pressures. So the less volume you need more pressure, or the more volume you need greater pressure. So, but yes, we have it available within our fleet, within our network. So again, there's no issue. But just preempt the next question, which I'm sure will come along. It's grey hydrogen. Green hydrogen is available, but not that the issue with green hydrogen up and down the country is trying to grab hold of it and put it into a logistics system to actually get it to the job site. And that, because of that, it's expensive. But it will become more and more. But I was talking to James earlier about this. Would you rather use in the big cities a diesel generator running off diesel, pumping all the emissions, the toxic fumes and the particulate matters into the atmosphere, which is harming children and people, you know, asthma, etc., or put a hydrogen generator next to on that same area, which its only emission is water?
I think everyone knows the answer to that one, don't they?
So it's still grey as an issue, but it's going to be resolved.
Brilliant. So quite easy, like I say, quite manageable. I didn't expect it to be in like that size, like your barbecue one. Brilliant. Thank you, Andy. And also, Andy, we've had a comment here. It's not a question. This is for you, saying that your passion for innovation is inspiring.
That's obviously
so I just thought I'd drop that one in there.
That's come from someone within the team, Speedy. But
was it your mum?
I'm either stupid or bored, but yeah, I'm definitely passionate.
Okay. No, I agree. James, this one is for you. Again, someone's directed it specifically for you. Do you think the industry is on track for net zero by 2050?
So I'm going to take a step back from that question first of all. I mentioned the COP process in Dubai starting tomorrow for 2 weeks. The world isn't on track to be net zero at the moment, so we need to do something globally, and this taps into some of the stuff that Andy and Amelia were saying about collaboration, getting in the room together at whatever level that you're working at. So we need to do that. That's the thing that's going to accelerate it. The UK, to Matt's point, the UK is a leader in sustainability more widely, not just like climate and net zero. So we've got that position to maintain and keep pushing forward with innovation, technology developments and so on. That's going to get us on track. There's more we need to do. We've got the knowledge, we've got the technology, we've got the money. There's a lot of private equity houses out there willing to put their money into the ESG pot. What we need is the will. So that's the leadership we need from all sections of society, from government, we've heard about already, from civil society, from trade associations. In this frame, from customers particularly, they just need to normalise their expectations for net zero and other sustainability stuff. They just need to normalise it with their supply chain and say, we're going to do this as sustainable as we can. And that will tackle some of the issues that we've heard about across today and get us onto the track that we need to be. We're not far off it, but we need to move the oil tank a little bit and get it going a bit quicker than it currently is.
And that's for the industry itself, or?
The industry...
Where would you say this industry stands there when it comes to different industry, or?
No, it's doing well. I mean, referring back to supply chain sustainability school, there's a lot of knowledge and awareness that we need to do something. And I go to a lot of these kinds of events, and you see all kinds of innovative materials, ways of working, different ways of working. So not even technology, just doing something differently is coming out all the time. It's just taking those and saying, these are really good, let's latch onto them. Let's just make them business as usual rather than what we've been doing for the last several decades.
Sure. Okay, next one. What is your experience around the level of data provided from manufacturers, etc., to aid sustainable messaging to support raising customer awareness? So I don't know if there's Amelia.
I mean, I can start, but I'm sure Andy and James can add to that narrative. As we mentioned, sort of in our discussions, myself and Matthew, we're working with the supply chain to harvest data. I think it goes back to what James says. We just need to normalise it. I think we can kind of overcomplicate things and think, oh my goodness, we've got this big problem to solve. But if we just look at it as a normal way of working, and we all get on the same path and same trajectory, then I think it would be a lot easier. So what we've done at Speedy is we've actively contacted our suppliers and we've asked for manufacturer specifications so that we can run our carbon analysis with Hydrock. We've issued contracts to our suppliers to say we want you to give us carbon data, even going down to the file format of how we want that data to be ingested into our business as well. So those conversations are happening.
It's so true. It's just normalising. Do you
Yeah.
remember when we all got the different coloured bins?
Yes.
Everyone was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. How do I sort out?
Yeah.
It's just normal now, isn't it? It's a given.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, from my point of view, we went out to the supply chain to get this data specifically on all carbon, ESG, etc. And I have to say that the response has been poor. Not that they don't want to do it, they just don't know how to do it. They've not done the assessments on there. They don't know the carbon footprint of their product. And the information we're requesting, simple things like packaging, etc., all that sort of information, they struggled. Some of the suppliers you would expect to have the answer to the big global manufacturers, but most of the suppliers, and this is why these events are important, because we're not demanding, we're actually saying, look, we'll help. Let's work together as an industry.
So how do you stop those? How do you change their answer then? How do you get them to comply almost?
You'll sit in front of them and say, this is what it needs to be. You need to do this. You need to provide it. You need to consult or engage with carbon consultants who will help you. And funny enough, Sam, some of the smaller suppliers we have did that. They engage with Hydrock, etc. And they're a different response. Literally doing a carbon assessment. They don't even know what their emission is. They don't know scope 1, 2 and 3. If you know that, then you can start to work within your scope 3 and what you can do about your product, because we are there, although they're our upstream scope 3, where they're downstream, they've got to do things to reduce our scope 3 so we can push it down to the customer.
Yeah, I was just going to add this. It's that consistency message. You know, it's not rocket science. It's just let's all work to the same language, basically, and then we can start tackling a lot of these issues around data and understanding the value of the data. I don't think data gets valued, or carbon data at least, doesn't get valued as much as it should do when you compare it to health and safety data or quality data. If you went to a job site or to a factory and said, look, the health and safety here is poor and these are the metrics we measure it by, you'd get a kicking. And it's the same if you get a quality in terms of the product coming off the production line. And if it was, you know, your rejection rate was above a certain level, you'd get a kicking. It's got to be the same kind of mentality with this. Otherwise, it's not going to get driven through and you'll get a difference of perception of, oh, what data do we need to do just to get us over the line? We are moving in the right direction. It's just keeping on with that kind of momentum.
100%. Again, it's like the stars are aligning with these questions. You were talking there, Andy, about larger national companies versus the smaller ones. A question's here, and it's got a few likes actually saying, are you noticing a different uptake of alternative and more sustainable fuel types depending on customer segment? So, for example, the difference between the larger and smaller ones.
Probably one for you, Amelia, around HVO. I mean, it is... Well, I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, so, I mean, when we look at our customer segments, our major accounts are the ones that are really focusing on the ESG agenda. And that's not just the carbon, it's the social value piece, it's the human rights piece, and the nature circularity that we walk through in the presentation. So we definitely know that there is a subset that are looking at that, and they have certain customers and clients as well. Some can be government driven. So it's easier for them to make decisions around, do they swap diesel out to HVO, because the cost pressures might not be there the way that you'd get with a smaller customer base as well. So we do see certain differences depending on the type of customer and the size of the project.
Okay, and the next one is innovation is key to success. How can we get leaders, businesses in the industry to take risks and start doing things differently? And any examples would be great. So I don't know if Matt, do you want to kick us off on this one?
Yeah, I think in terms of being willing to take risk, I think the first thing is that some of these risks are pretty calculated. Nobody needs to bet the farm on doing this. I think taking a new piece of technology, I think proving that it actually works in functional operational terms, and then working out how to scale it is a good way to do it. I think that there's more that could be done to help businesses deploy innovation. In terms of sort of creating the enabling circumstances around it. One thinks of finance mechanisms, one thinks of taxation, one thinks of various other things which could encourage it. But I think ultimately it comes down to confident leadership. I think that what you need is if you have leaders in your business who have a degree of vision about them and are willing to pioneer things and bring their customers solutions, then innovation can be mainstreamed fairly quickly. It is a risk. It's a risk with everything, and I think what leaders do is they move ahead of the curve, and maybe sometimes things are not perfected in terms of the operationalization of things or not, but they take that risk, and my view is that customers will appreciate that. What we do hear from a lot of our clients is they don't want to be the person who's reacting to customer demands. They want to be the people who are leading with solutions for their customers, and even if they don't bite at the first opportunity, it positions them as an innovator that people will flock to in the future.
Well, that's certainly what we're doing here at Speedy, isn't it?
Can I give an example?
Yeah, please.
So a great example, and you've asked the questions has asked for an example. I won't name the customer, not because I do want to, but they may not want me to, but they've done an assessment against petrol and small diesel powered equipment, saws, breakers, plate compactors, etc. They've done a full assessment, not just on the carbon output and the fuel consumption, but the downtime. As I said to you in my presentation, these tools break down on a regular basis and you can't use them in certain environments, indoors, etc. So they've done this full assessment, which is over 30 pages. It was available to their suppliers and I've seen a copy of it. And their outcome and their mandating after following this assessment is from next year they're going to move to a totally cordless on these products. Now, they haven't specified a particular brand or etc. They've just said, we've done these assessments. These are all the benefits from carbon, from efficiency, from downtime, the job site. This is the benefits cordless going to give us. We're doing it. And that's innovation at its best. They've really gone into it. And I encourage, by having this collaboration, that customer can share their findings with, because if it benefits them, all the customers that are viewing this presentation today are using the same tools. It's going to benefit you, but they've done the assessment, so it'll work for you guys.
Could I build on that? Yeah, so I'm going to name a customer because it's out in the public domain, and that's to Matt's point. For me, it's about those big, particularly not just these, but particularly big public sector clients, and I'm thinking of Lower Thames Crossing particularly. If they can take on the risk, yes, it's public money, but they're taking the risk on behalf of the country, basically, and say, we are going to be innovative, we're going to take on that risk so that the contractors and the suppliers don't have to shoulder all of it. They need to shoulder some of it. We all need to have joint responsibility, but they're not shouldering all of it, and there's no risk dumping going down the value chain. If they can do that, then you say, yeah, we are going to try a different kind of concrete mix that is lower carbon. We're going to try different kinds of plant and equipment because we know that's the way forward. And we probably will make a few mistakes along the way, but that's how we learn. But we can absorb that financially as well as reputationally within the project and do it for everyone's benefit. So everyone who's in that project, and this is what LTC are doing, they can say we're all going to learn out the back of it, and we'll have a lower carbon project. Everything's going to be more sustainable. And just one of the examples out of LTC is they talk about materials, and they say of all their suppliers, their material suppliers, they all have to have something called an environmental product declaration. It's basically a form that says this is the impact of your material for all of their top 10 materials that go onto site. So it's quite a sea change in what they're doing as a project. But because they're government backed, they can take that risk, and they know that, and then it's an even playing field for people. It's back to that collaborative consistency piece.
Brilliant. great insight from you all
Keep
there.
talking about collaboration. Please, that's one of the main messages from today, like collaboration.
We can't solve this on our own. No way.
Collab. And I'm coming towards the end now, so I think we've got time for one more question. Amelia, I'm going to throw this one to you. What do the major players need to be doing to drive real change in the industry?
Well, I think I'll build on all the conversations and questions that we've had in the panel. You know, I've been in the sector for 20 years, and we always land on a discussion around sustainability and cost. And I think we just have to put that to bed. We have to recognise that to get to net zero, we're going to have to make some bold decisions. We've got to look, as James said, around collaborating, sharing the risk and the reward across the value chain, and change the way that we manage the approach to net zero than we previously had. If we go back to that word cloud around family and people engagement, there is a bigger picture at stake here, and I think we just need to move past those cost conversations and go, what is the best solution for the whole value chain, and sharing that risk and reward together.
Well, it sounds cliche. It's like an investment to the future, isn't it, really? And just making a difference. Yeah, well, we could have gone on forever there in that Q&A. We still had plenty of questions, so thank you very much if you did send them in. We really appreciate it. And thank you very much to Amelia, Andy, James.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Well, sadly, that is everything we have time for today. From Speedy Live Net Zero 23 to Speedy Live Expo 24. If you have enjoyed this virtual event, you definitely shouldn't miss the biggest event in the Speedy Hire calendar. On the 20th and 21st of March 2024, Speedy Hire will be heading back to my hometown of Liverpool to host the Speedy Expo at the Exhibition Centre, Liverpool. Evolving beyond a traditional exhibition and conference, the Speedy Expo now encompasses seminars and live media broadcasts that reach thousands of industry colleagues across the UK and Ireland. And in recognition of this transformative shift, the event has rebranded as Speedy Live Expo 2024, positioning it as the flagship event among a series of new live satellite and virtual events just like today. Speedy Live Expo 24 is designed to foster collaboration on ideas, innovation and sustainability within our industry. This year's event promises to be the biggest and most impressive event yet. So keep an eye on your inbox for exciting updates or go to www.speedylive.co.uk for more information. Also, if you are one of Speedy's fantastic supply chain partners, you can reserve your stand by emailing speedylivexpo@firstevent.co.uk. So yeah, make sure you're there in Liverpool. It's a great city and a great night out. But for today, that is it. I would really like to thank all of our speakers for their expertise, our sponsors for their support, and most of all, each and every one of you for joining us today for Speedy Live Net Zero 23. We have answered as many questions as possible. However, if you do have any further questions or need any support on anything or everything that has been discussed today, please do not hesitate to drop us a line on Hydrock Speedy, ESG@hydrock.com. But from me, thank you and see you in Liverpool on the 20th and 21st of March 2024.